You're live, Pat.
Okay, welcome to our first YouTube live podcast. We do a lot of different kind of podcasts around town, and sometimes we do them on the field. And Robbie and I will be doing one again today after the game, telling you what we thought of the spring game. And I can pretty much tell you what I think of the spring game now, which is it looked about like I expected. And then the whole story is, did anybody get hurt? That's the only thing that matters. Because you see guys get hurt. Ronald Powell got hurt in the spring game one year and was never really the same. You don't want that to happen. But you're not going to be able to tell a whole lot in this spring game for a lot of reasons. One is you got to see this offensive line block against other teams that want to make a tackle. Right now, you're just guys that know each other, they're buddies. They may be roommates, and that's who you're blocking against. You got to wait until you get to that point. And the other thing is, I've been saying since the end of last season that we saw Felipe Franks go from being a bad quarterback to a good quarterback. Now can he go from a good quarterback to a great quarterback? Can he make that jump? And we're not going to know obviously from a spring game. But I think the one thing you'll see for sure is a team that is better organized. Second years are different for coaches, and some of them have some of them do things like Urban Meyer did, win a national championship the second year. Bobby Stoops won a national championship the second year. Nick Saban was in the SEC title game his senior year or his second year. And the reason that happens is because coaches, their first year, they're just trying to get you to understand why we're doing something. Here's why we do it this way. Here's why we warm up this way. Here's why in pregame, the drills that we run in pregame, you're just trying to get guys to understand this is why. And then you go from that. By the time you get your second year, they all know why. You don't have to explain it again. You don't have to explain why we run this play. We don't have to explain what we're trying to do with this play. And so everything moves a lot smoother. Second years are usually the years when you see a coach do well. And you think about it, Urban won his second year. Steve Spurrier's second year, SEC championship, first one that counted. Jim McElwain, everybody's favorite coach, his second year, they got to Atlanta. Might have been more about the players that they were, or the teams they were going up against. And then in the second year, I was trying to think of Zook. All right, not so good. And Muschamp, second year, he goes 11-2. He gets to the Sugar Bowl. That didn't go well, but he got there. So second years tend to be better. But here's the thing about this season, I think more than anything, is it's divided like they usually are into quarters or into thirds, I'm sorry. September actually is August this year because of the game being moved up. So you have a different thing this year with 3 open dates. We've never seen that before. But what you have to do is you've got to manage that. But you're going to know at the end of September, whether this team can block or not. And you'll know a lot more about the defense because of who they play. Then you get that October stretch with that's the one that decides your season. Because you're going to play big conference games in there and, of course, Georgia. And then the end is how do you finish? Can you finish strong and progress? And that's what they did last year. They weren't great in the middle part, but they were great at the end. All right, I'm going to read some of these questions we got from our studio audience. It's a lovely studio audience, isn't it? If you look under your seat, there is a key to a free car. All right, Marianne asks, what will be the toughest team you think this year for the football team? I really think this Miami game is huge, but that's not going to be the toughest game. I think it's huge if you can't lose that game. You undercut all of the momentum you built by beating Michigan, by closing against that school out west, and by winning that, obviously, the comeback against South Carolina. All that momentum is building, and recruiting is going well, and then all of a sudden you go and lose to Miami, and it just shoots it down. You got to win that game. But they're certainly, the question was whether the toughest game they're going to have. And, we all would point to Georgia, but maybe it's Missouri because they can't beat Missouri. I guess Missouri's got something. I think they're 6-2 2 against Florida since joining the league. Now Drew Lock's gone, and that makes a difference. But they bring from whose name is escaping me from Clemson, the quarterback. He's going to be their quarterback. What's his name? I forgot it. How soon we forget. All right. Lynn wants to know Florida's record in 2019. And if I wish I did know it, because then I would go to Vegas, make a little money. I think the over-under is like 8.5, the Vegas line. And that's I told people last year, I said that they've got a 9-3 team going into the season. I thought they had a 9-3 team. And, it could have gone either way as far as that goes. They actually ended up with a 9-3 regular season record. But every game, my mantra is every game comes down to a handful of plays and a handful of games. Every season. Every season is about 2 or 3 games that are going to be right down to the wire. Do you make the plays to win the games? And if you do, you have a great season. You know what? Virginia did. They made 912 great plays to win the national championship. But that's what you have to have. And it always comes down to that. I think, look, I think this schedule is a little tougher this year because you're trading out, Charleston Southern for Miami, which is a slight upgrade. And you're trading out, you have to go to LSU and you have to go to Missouri where you've never played well. So it is a little bit of a tougher schedule. But I still think this is a 9-win team until the offensive line shows me that they can be good. I remember last year telling people I needed the offensive line was going to have to prove it to me because all those guys were back, but they hadn't blocked anybody yet. And when it turned out, it took them a while to get going. They were turned into a really good offensive line. Now you see Jawan Taylor is going to be a top I guess you would call him a lottery pick in the NFL draft. And Tez Ivy, I actually saw him last night. He looks great. He's ready to go. They're going to. And as you get guys to move into the pros, it becomes a place that people want to go, and they believe that they can be developed properly. That was a problem previously, where players didn't believe they could get developed by the coaching staff, by the strength coach. And when you have that, and players are going off campus to get more work because they're not getting enough work, that's a bad. That's not a good thing. You need these guys, and that's the biggest thing. I think I'm rambling on a short question, but I'm going to continue to ramble. The biggest thing that this staff has done is make these guys believe that they know what they're doing. Okay, you got to believe when a coach sends a plan, you got to believe it's going to work, and you got to understand. I know this is going to work because I think my coach is smart. And these guys, it took them a while, and they got to that point at the end of the year where they believe that what the coaches are sending in. When they send in safety blitz on the last play of the game in Mississippi State, they believed it would work. And Donovan Steiner ran like his hair was on fire, made probably the biggest defensive play of the year. So that was my question to how many games will the Gators win this year? Who will be the most valuable Gator? It's a good question. I'm not even sure who it was last year. That's kind of it's just like with the wide receivers. Nobody's going to be on anybody's preseason all SEC teams because they don't put the numbers up because they distribute the ball. And we also saw last year where Florida became a run-first team and a quarterback run team. So it's hard to say who will be the MVP. It might have been last year. It might have been Jawan Taylor. But, I think a lot of people would have voted for Polite with the year he had, making big plays. Boy, who will be the MVP? Well, I'll just say Felipe because if he makes that step, and like I said, if he makes the step to great, that is because the offensive line did the job in front of him. And then but without that offensive line playing well, he can't be great. Nobody can be great without an offensive line. And then I also have a question from Lynn. will the Gators make it to Omaha? There's transportation available. This is not a great team by any means. I've seen a lot of them here, and we do get spoiled with baseball and softball. We expect every regional to be here. You know, we expect them to go to Omaha and Oklahoma City every year because they do. You know, it's almost every year. But I think in both sports this year, maybe not, may be shorter summers than they're used to. Baseball's problem is that they just don't have the pitching, which is amazing for a Kevin O'Sullivan team. They're last in the SEC in ERA. I never thought I'd see that. I mean, accidentally, they strike people out. So they're sitting there, though, with this situation where they don't have great, but they're very young arms, and they're going to get better. They're going to learn how to pitch in tough situations. They're going to learn how to pitch when you're at Ole Miss and they've got 12,000 people there. So they're going to get there, but it's not going to be this year. So it won't be. I don't think they'll be in Omaha. The question I have is whether they'll even host regionals this year. All right, here's another question from one of our studio audience. Do you think Tim Tebow will make it to the majors? He will make it to the majors because they want him in uniform so they can sell Tebow jerseys up at Shea Stadium. So he'll get there, and he would have gotten there last year before he got hurt, I think. Will he make it, though, is more of a question. I don't know if he will or not. I mean, I think it's like everything with him. He works as hard as he can. And I think the biggest mistake Tim Tebow made football-wise was try to change his motion so that it would be more what the NFL is looking for, but it wasn't natural to him. So every time he dropped back, he had a play in his head, and he had to make sure he got his arm exactly where in the right slot. I think he had too much to think about. And I think that's why he struggled as a passer. And look, the bottom line, he wasn't very good as a quarterback. He had the one beautiful year, but that was scoring a touchdown with 5 minutes to go of every game. And that was it. That was it. That was the only touchdown he usually scored in the game. So, you know, it's but he's worked hard at it, and I'm rooting for him. He's as good a guy as I've ever been around. That's one thing I'm very lucky to cover Florida sports for as long as I have, 40-something years. And one reason I'm lucky is the relationships you develop with people. And I think Tim, Danny, you know, guys like Jack Youngblood, you get to meet your heroes and become friends with them. That really is one of the coolest things. You got some more questions back there? You with the floppy hat?
We got a couple coming.
Okay.
Pat, we got somebody doing you on YouTube from South Carolina. It is assumed Georgia is a class of the East heading into the 2019 season. What is the pecking order behind the Dogs, in your opinion, coming out of spring practice?
Yeah, no, I think here's the thing. Right now, Florida's roster is not where Georgia's is. They've got a chance to get it up there. They're working towards it. But Georgia's roster is better. And it was a lot better a year ago. So it's getting better. And so I would definitely put Georgia at the top. It doesn't mean you can't win just because one team's got better players, you know. We see that all the time. We've seen that with, you know, at LSU a lot. You know, that's why you have upsets in basketball, for example. So you can win. Florida could still win the East, but Georgia is going to be picked by everybody when we go to Hoover for the SEC Media Days. There's no question. But to me, it's a clear. There's a 1, and then there's a clear number 2, and that's Florida. Talent-wise, coaching-wise, all the things that are going forward with facilities, that's a clear number 2. And then you've got kind of the 3-4 of Kentucky and South Carolina, where they might be good, but you almost feel like they've got a ceiling. Like they can't get through that ceiling. And then Tennessee, you know, is a team that they feel like they've recruited well this year, and that they're on their way back, and a lot of people really like Jeremy Pruitt. So, but I still think until they prove something, you know, I used to have an expression when Butch Jones was there. I used to call them the Kardashians because they look good, but they never did anything. and they're kind of still there. You know, they're still the Kardashians. They got those pretty orange creamsicle, you know, jerseys. But where'd they go this year? Wasn't good. What was their record this year? 5-7. This one here? Okay. Okay, here we go. How can Florida start to recruit or ever out-recruit cross out, oops, Alabama's and Clemson's of the world? From Steve in Fort Myers. Now, that's a great question. But you know, here's the thing. You know it's possible because you saw it happen when Urban was here. And they were out recruiting. It takes a lot. They've had to change a lot in the whole recruiting cycle. And you're seeing it start to pay off. They're getting better and better players. But to get the 5 stars on a consistent basis, you've got to win. You've got to win some championships. I mean, it's kind of a chicken egg thing. If you don't win any championships, it's hard to recruit. It's hard to recruit that you don't get the players, so you don't win the championships. But I think that they have a chance to do that, and they've got to be able to get up in there into that stratosphere. It would also help if Saban would retire. That would be a possibility, right? And then, but they're not that far behind. I think they were when they walked in the door, but they're not that far behind now. Who will be the starting quarterback at the end of the season? Well, if I knew that, I go to Vegas again. Because, I mean, who knows with injuries? That's like when people ask me when I'm speaking to Gator clubs around town or around the state, and they go, "Hey, what do you think? You think we'll beat FSU this year?" I'm like, I don't even know who's going to be playing in the game. I don't know if Willie Taggart's still going to have a job. I can't bet on that game. I have no idea whether they're going to win that game or not because you don't know what the situation is at quarterback. I mean, look, this is Felipe's team. We all know that now. He took it over at the end of last year just when he was about to lose it. In fact, the column I want to write today, and I don't know if it's going to work out. I don't know if they'll bring him. I want to write a column on Kyle Trask because why is he still here? You know, everybody, they keep bringing in quarterbacks and never giving him a chance, and he still sticks around. The transfer portal is like the biggest portal in the world apparently now, and he doesn't want to go in. And I told somebody the trouble is I'll write that column, and then the next day he'll announce he's transferring to Murray State. So I'm concerned about that, but I still may do it. But look, it's Felipe's team, and they love Emory Jones, and he's going to play football this year. And they'd like to do with Jalen Jones exactly what they did with Emory last year, which was not lose his red shirt, but still get him some action. I think that's the plan. Now, how that translates as the season goes along with injuries, you never have any idea. What kind of relationship does Steve Spurrier and Mullen have? Very good one. Not the artificial one that they had before with the previous head coach, who will remain nameless, because I get things thrown at me when I mention Jim McElwain. Oh, I said it. Anyway, he would always say, "Hey, here's the thing. He Hall of Famer right down the hall. I go talk to him all the time. You'd be silly, you'd be crazy, you'd be stupid if you didn't go talk to him all the time." He never went and talked to him. That was our. And Spurrier told me this one story, where he went to Doug Nussmeier and said, I got a play for you. I think it will work with the way you're running your offense. And they were just like, "We're good." You got to take that play, don't you? You got to take that play. You should run it in the first play of the game. You can use some advice, but there was a lot of stubbornness there. With Dan, Dan understands, which I think was huge in hiring him. Dan gets Florida football, and certainly if you get Florida football, you get Steve Spurrier, and you want to be part of that. And they've got a great relationship. In fact, I know that Coach Spurrier was not going to be happy with the Chip Kelly hiring because he didn't have respect for, I don't know what the reasons were, but he did not want them to hire Chip Kelly. And here's the weird thing about it. Chip Kelly was going to be hired. He turned Florida down because he didn't want to be, he said, the king of Florida or whatever. I don't know what that means, but that's what he didn't want to do. But he'd rather go to UCLA. When's the last time you heard about UCLA football? No, because he wants that. You're in a town where it's the Lakers, it's the Dodgers, and then it's the Rams, even though they're in the Super Bowl, they're probably the third. Then it's USC. Then it's Jay-Z. You know, I mean, by the time you get down to the Bruins, they're barely getting coverage. So he wants that, though. That's the kind of guy, the thing he wants. But the ball coach wasn't happy. Then he found out about his secret marriage, and he lost it because you know how Steve is. But Chip Kelly apparently got married, didn't tell anybody, listed himself as single on his bio for a while. It's a weird deal. He's a weird guy. Okay, so when Coach Mullen was hired, I mean, Spurrier was ecstatic. Dan Mullen wears a visor because of Steve Spurrier. So, I mean, it's a great relationship. They talk a lot, and his ideas are not dismissed, which is very important. Did I have another one? Okay, what?
So we know, well, not everybody knows, but you got to coach a team during the Orange and Blue game one year. Got any interesting stories from that, and how it might, anything funny they might do this week?
The best part, I was a coach. However, I did not coach. I was on the sidelines. I never got to call a play. I coached under the tutelage of Charlie Weiss. So you can't blame me for any of that. Yeah, I got to be on the field and go through everything. It was fascinating to do it because you go to pregame meal, freaking steaks. I had like 2 steaks. They were delicious. And I'm like, you guys eat like this before? And they were like, yeah, steak wasn't very good today, was it? I go, it was great. What are you talking about? You're eating steak for breakfast. And, oh, we need to pay the players. But they're eating steak for breakfast. They're fine. So you go, and then you go through the Gator walk, which I wish I could do every day of my life. It's just on my way to work, walk through the Gator walk. It is the coolest thing in the world. It gets you ready. You want to go to work then. And then in the locker room, I'll tell you the biggest thing that happened was the difference is the second year they couldn't find anybody to coach, so they asked me to coach again. My job I had done such a good job apparently. But the amazing thing to me was that the first year, this goes back to what I'm talking about, first and second years of coaches. The first year was, you know, okay, they're in there, and okay, let's do this and this, you know, at halftime. And the second year, they're at each other's throats. You know, the wide receivers are going, you're not gonna, I'm gonna beat you every time. No, you're gonna beat me. And coaches were getting up in guys' faces. They were ready to play. They weren't just trying to figure it out. They knew what they wanted to do. And again, you look at the difference in the record, 7-6 versus 11-2. I've become Trump here. I'm like, my hands are all moving all over. I didn't do anything. Sorry. So we have another question.
From a fan's perspective, Scott Strickland just seems to be a home run hire. He's making everything fun, and he seems to be making all the right decisions, facilities, and all that. Is that kind of behind the scenes? Does it seem that way?
Yeah, no, I think when Scott got here, he knew that there were some things and some of it had already started with Jeremy. To be fair to Jeremy, the indoor practice facility is totally Jeremy's deal. But Scott saw it they needed a new set of eyes on it. And Jeremy's the best AD in the world. I mean, he did a tremendous job, but they needed a new set of eyes. And that's what's happened. And he's seeing a bigger picture maybe. Jeremy was a guy who invested in people and paid Florida coaches in that way because he invested in people. And Scott's more of an invest in people too, but also add in the structures. And he's doing, I think, a tremendous job. It's not easy what they're doing. For example, from what I've been told, the situation over at baseball, they assumed they were going to have some parking they didn't have, and now they're having to change the design and stuff. I don't know how true that is, but I'm sure that it's not easy when you're trying to put together this much. Just building, I mean, I don't know if you've been to the softball. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And when this football facility is built here where baseball is, it's going to be unbelievable, state of the art. I mean, it's going to have a water slide and three-hole golf course and chocolate fountain. You know, it's going to be unbelievable. Well, you never know. I mean, it can be gold-plated urinals by, you know. So, all right. Is there any other questions?
Two more questions.
All right.
Before we get wrapping up the stadium.
I'd rather stay here than go cover the game, to be honest with you.
Okay. So another fan from South Carolina. I guess you're popular on YouTube out there.
Well, you know, it is the Palmetto State.
Well, Greg, Will Muschamp had a history of teams with injury problems at UF, and last season was brutal injury-wise at Carolina. What do you attribute that to?
He has a little bit of Zook luck. There's no question about it. I mean, he doesn't get a lot of breaks, but and look, I don't know the physiology of it. Okay, but did you notice last year when Florida had a guy we all think the world of as a strength coach, and the players were better maybe conditioned? There weren't a lot of injuries. There were a couple of fluke ones. The Marco Wilson one was a total fluke. What happened to Kyle Trask was a fluke in practice, but I believe that the strength coaches have a big influence over injuries, and I sat down with him in his office during the preseason, and he said, look, I'm not trying to train weightlifters or bodybuilders. I'm trying to turn these guys into the best athletes they can possibly be. And when you're the best athlete you can be, you're probably a little less receptive to injury. And I'm going to believe that because I don't have any other way of figuring it out. But so I would point to Will Muschamp's strength coach and fire him today. How about that? Whoever he is, I don't even know who it is.
John Michael Montgomery from Gainesville. What can we expect to see from Emory Jones?
I think they're going to give Emory Jones a chance to shine, you know. But, I mean, they still want to get everybody in there. I think they're going to run him with the first team. In fact, I know that's going to happen. But the way they've divided it up, it's all kind of a mishmash anyway. But you'll see. I think they're going to give him a chance to showcase and gain some confidence. Like we all know right now, nobody has more confidence on a team than Felipe Franks. Some of it may be whistling past the graveyard, but he's got a ton of confidence right now because of the way the season finished. It's his team. We talked to him. You can tell it. He shaved his little beard off. So that shows how much confidence he's ready to show us. So he's clearly full of confidence. No, but I think he's going to have a big year. But you want to breed that into the guys that are the younger guys in front of some people. I mean, 30,000, 35,000, whatever is going to be over there. It's still a lot more than Jalen Jones probably ever played in front of, I guess. So you get those people excited and let them build him, lift him up with your cheers. That would be my. What was the question? I don't even remember. Never mind.
What do you expect to see out of him?
Yeah, that's what I expect to see. Are we done? Has anybody else got a question out there? You guys are probably bored stiff by now, but all right, thanks everybody. We're going to sign off, and thanks for being part of this experiment. Maybe we'll do it again.